not illiterate, but they didn't exactly go to school, or how can people like that, benefit from something like a farming calendar? Is there a way people have been taking these services elsewhere?
Now we went the easy route, where anyone who has gotten up to primary 5 can read the calendar in English and use it to operate every day. It is simple does, simple goes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And how much so far success, or not success, but how many responses, and how have you gotten those responses coming out of people from the ones who have used the calendar so far? What are the responses you've had?
Well, I want it to be more accessible. That is the biggest response that I got.
Okay.
And in that line, I would like to prompt people who want to be distributors to call this telephone number 0766 751 601. If you would like to be a distributor of the farming calendar, please call the line 0766 751 601. We are trying to make it accessible across East Africa.
You said farming being the backbone of Uganda. This farming calendar seems very necessary, especially for us who are getting out of, people are getting out of the farming culture. How do you think, many Ugandans are going to receive it? Because it's just begun, we've just seen it. What's the vision for it going forward? What do you think?
Well, I think that the farming calendar is as simple as its results. The results are for us to eat well, to be able to get some more money out of farming. It's a learning culture. We will be able to protect and show off our heritage, not just as Ugandans, but as East Africans. Because when you look at the food we eat, it cuts across the whole of East Africa. You'll go to Congo, you'll go to Kenya, you'll go to South Sudan, Tanzania, you will find cassava there. You go to all these places, it's the same diet. So along with the diet, we would like to borrow recipes from all these African states, that if I go to northern Uganda and I find that they are cooking sorghum, I would like to introduce sorghum to Central Region and borrow from their recipes as long as the crop is readily available.
Okay. All right. We're going to come back and talk about it being an East African farming calendar, because you didn't tap into only Uganda with this one. So we'll come back and talk about that in a bit. But for now, let's get back to her music. Number 9, Njogereza Navio. Definitely a song that is, definitely for the mood. Let's get it. Coming in at number 7, Tugende Kampala. Finny Retire the late. Oh, what a man. Yeah, man, it's 2:20 in the PM, East African Standard Time. If you're tuned into Radio City, wonderful. If you're not, well, let your friends know where they should be tuned in. Right now is my top 10, and this is number 7 for Council Susan Nakabembe Bakawa. She's in studio with me today, and we are getting to learn more and more about these things called farming calendars, what time we should and what time we shouldn't. But I have a question for her, and she's here. How is she doing?
I'm doing great.
Okay, so when we left off, we were talking about making this calendar go across the East African states. You did mention that this is an East African farming calendar that you came up with. How difficult was it to merge these seasons? Because we're different countries, different seasons, but we needed to fit in one calendar. How difficult was that for you?
Well, when I was doing research for the calendar, I found that the equatorial belt has the same climate across.
Okay.
It is areas that are in extremely northern Uganda and South Sudan and southern Tanzania that have a savanna kind of climate. So across the board, the equator has 2 rainy seasons and 2 dry seasons. So it wasn't as much challenging for the seasons as it is for global warming and climate change. Now, global warming and climate change, we have issues nowadays where we're expecting rain and it doesn't rain. And then there are times when we're expecting to dry our produce
And it rains.
Yes, it rains or the sun is not enough. So that is an ongoing issue that I would appeal everyone to participate in while we fight climate change and global warming, so that we retain our farming seasons. The calendar itself has the traditional farming seasons that we grew up with and we're used to. That is people, millennials and below.
Yeah.
We are used to the old farming season. So that is what the calendar represents, and that is what you will find. Those are the seasons that you will find on the calendar for planning purposes. The intention is for us to retain that farming system. So we have to work hard, we have to plant our trees, we have to guard the wetlands, we have to be intentional about the kinds of crops we plant in the various areas in order to retain the climate that we have and the weather for the farming calendar to work optimal.
Yeah. And without, going into the details of how this came up, was it easy to actually, have you spread this already? No, okay, I'm sure it has already reached, the different countries, but was it easy to get people on board for the project?
Well, I have received a lot of support, but as I said, the farming calendar was introduced last year. This is our second year of operation. We still have to do more legwork in order for it to cover the whole of East Africa.
Okay.
So I once again appeal to you all to please participate, because remember, when you eat well, you live well.
Yeah. And eating well and living well is definitely something Ugandans should get into, because lately it's been crazy. But you spoke about climate change, and how has it made your work, I don't want to say difficult, because it's hard to tell. Now, as you said, nowadays most people are expecting January to be dry, but random days we got a full day of rain, and you're wondering what's going on. So how has this challenged you, or what are some of the other challenges you've also faced, minus this, on your journey to this work?
Well, I had to bite the bullet and make a decision as to what kind of seasons will be carried on the calendar. So I decided to put the traditional farming seasons. My job now is to appeal to all of Ugandans and East Africans and Africans at large to do their part in making sure that our seasons do not change. Yes, they have changed, but we still have a small area where if we put in effort, the seasons will not change that much, and they will end up reverting to the old seasons that we had.
Okay.
Yes, it rains a lot when we are not expecting it, but we do have some control over it. We should plant more trees, be careful of how we are using the land.
Yeah.
You don't have to tarmac everywhere. You don't have to put these pavers. You don't have to put pavers across a space of football field. The whole football field is covered with pavers. Please love your green and love your greens as well.
I love it. I literally do. Anyway, we're going to go in for a short break, but when we do get back, we're going to now get into your personal blog, the other side of you, the other work that you do aside this calendar. 25 minutes past 2 p.m. It is the Mid-Morning Magazine. Today we are learning serious stuff, and we better be keeping our pens and papers close. Right now we're going for a short break, and when we get back, my top 10 still continues with her top 6 songs. With me in studio is Council Susan.